It is 12:30 on the dot for my phone. So I would like to call to order the legislative committee regular meeting for Tuesday, January 14th. Roll call, please, Heidi.
Member Childress.
Yes.
Chair Desar.
Here.
Vice Chair Galassi.
Here.
Member Deacon Garcia. Member Ozak.
Here.
Member Schwartz.
Here.
All right, we're all here. We've got a forum. The first item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. So I move to approve 25-0084 legislative minutes, the regular meeting Tuesday, December 10th, 2024.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any comments? Okay, I've got a comment. Oh, I think I have to do it just because you're not on. Sorry. So I have a comment. I would like to amend. Oh, thank you. I would like to spend, I can put my phone away. I got you, Eden, I got you. So we would like to amend minutes. I'm gonna read this from you so you all get it. Hi, Dawn. I reviewed the legislative committee minutes of December 10th, and I noticed that the Pretrial Fairness Act is characterized as the Safety Act. Would it be possible to change the minutes to reflect that the act is officially titled the Pretrial Fairness Act? I think it was coined the Safety Act by the media or opposition parties. Thank you. This comes from Yina, and I did speak to our state's attorney, Barb. Sorry, two-timing you. I spoke to Barb about it, and she said that this is perfectly fine to make this change. So my amendment is to change Safety Act to Pretrial Fairness Act in the December 10th minutes. Can I get a second? Second. Okay. So I would like to move to approve LEG-P-0001-25 as amended. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, it is passed as amended. Thank you, Nina. Wait, I forgot it was.
No, I think you want to do
Oh, I'm sorry.
0084.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I'd like to move to, I hit my head today, come on. People. I'd like to move to approve the minutes 25-0084 as amended. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it passes. Do we have any public comment?
We do not.
Okay. And then my chair remarks are this. On our agenda today is the approval of another year for McGuire Woods Consulting, the federal, our federal lobbyist. And our representative for that company is Greg Bales. So we asked Greg to come in case you had any questions that you wanted to ask him. And, you know, I think it's important because he's our federal lobbyist and we've got a brand new administration coming in. And please, any questions? Greg.
I'm Greg Howard. How are you? Nice to see you again. With Chair Desart's comments about the new administration, what kind of challenges are you expecting to face with that? Certainly helping Illinois and DuPage County.
They're so unknown. It's kind of what, you know, when I talk to my peers and colleagues, like, they said, what are you advising your clients? I said, we're in this wait and see holding pattern. I'd say one of the biggest questions that's sort of most relevant to local government is what's going to happen on the budget front.
Right.
Are they going to, where will they try to reduce spending or change what they spend on? I mean, what you're reading and hearing publicly is talk about pulling back dollars passed in the Inflation Reduction Act, which included a lot of environmental climate change type spending. And so some of those programs may go away. Grants that the county may pursue, things like that. But a silver lining to that, I don't even know if that's the right term here. When President Trump took office in 2017, I joked with someone about that they didn't get rid of certain programs, they just rebranded them. My starkest example was the Department of Commerce used to have this program to help communities make energy changes. And it was sort of, if you were based on a dirty energy production program, you could apply for this money. So they changed it to assisting coal communities. Like they just completely revamped it. That's a long answer to say, we're waiting to see, we're keeping a close eye on the budget. And so reductions are probably what we'll see it, so spending areas. Hope that makes sense. Sorry.
Member Ozak?
And what I want to express, I'm Mary Ozag and I'm Chair of the Transportation Committee. And my big concern is that, I'm going to be blunt, that blue states might end up being quote unquote punished in our in ongoing budgeting discussions, especially things like infrastructure, transportation. So anything you can do, I mean, it is a concern. Again, we don't know anything right now. So I'm hoping, I like the rebranding. I like to think that an awful lot can't happen at once, which is probably true. And so, but I am concerned about blue state versus red state, which I hope doesn't happen, but is totally possible.
Just a bit of comment on that. It could work in our favor, work not in our favor, but one proposal that's been out there is, particularly in transportation, is what if there's a shift from US DOT being less of a high-level grant maker and pushing more of those dollars to the state?
Yeah.
Get in under their sort of pre-authorized programs. So you wouldn't see changes in funding, but more discretion afforded to the state to make decisions. That could work in our favor, work not in our favor. I'd say a good news thing here is that transportation and infrastructure spending is fairly bipartisan. And the appropriators in Congress are working together really well on this front. And when it comes to what the White House, the executive branch can do, Speaker Johnson has a pretty slim majority. So a lot of these changes still have to pass through Congress, and they're going to need Democrats to agree with them to do these things. So if you're a half-class full person, as I am, that's the way I'm trying to look at it.
So it would really behoove them to continue to, definitely transportation, obviously, things that are economically important.
I'd say, an interesting criticism at times of the Biden administration was some Democrats felt he was awarding too many projects in red states. So it's to be determined what this administration would pass. I choose.
So I'd like to follow up on both Member Schwartzy and Member Ozak's question. You had mentioned when you were answering Member Schwartz's question, that some of the grants will go away. What do you, I know you don't have a crystal ball, but can you tell us, transportation was one question. Human services, I mean, what grants do you see going away perhaps?
The easiest ones to probably pinpoint, and I don't even want to say pinpoint, but it's probably anything that sort of has a branding of climate change.
Oh,
There's just.
Really?
Sheila?
I'm sorry. So sorry, guys. What was the question? I'm
No, did you
sorry.
hear what he
What
said?
I did
grants are
not.
going,
Oh,
Sheila
wow.
is our chairperson of environment.
So sorry. And not part of this committee, but I am sitting in today. so-
Okay, well, the
Sure.
question was, what grants, he mentioned that some grants will be going away. Could be going away. And I said, where, human services, transportation, what? And he said,
If I was to
climate change.
pick something that they've publicly spoken against, it is funding programs that sort of are branded or focused on climate change. What those programs may be that they try to get rid of, it's hard to say. But that's the biggest one that I keep an eye out.
Absolutely my
questions?
concerns as
Yeah,
well,
we
and I
have-
made comment about that this
Ina.
morning.
oh, Ina,
Does anybody else? have
remember
questions?
you,
I
I'm
have
sorry.
one too, but
Oh, you can go ahead, because you're a community member.
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay, thank you. Hi Greg, how are you? I just wanted, I did hear a rumor from gun safety advocates that, the newly established Office for Gun Violence Prevention will likely close. Do you think that's actually going to happen, or will it be rebranded?
For which prevention? I'm sorry.
Violence
Gun
prevention.
Oh,
I'm purely crystal balling this by saying it would probably be closed.
Okay, thanks.
Member
My-
Dean Garcia.
my question is, the Equal Rights Amendment. It's been through the House, it's been through the Senate. All it has to be done is the president has to tell the archivist to publish it. What is your gut on that? That's gonna happen in the next couple of
5
days,
days.
maybe.
I've heard there's been some direct lobbying to him and the first lady on it, but
I know like 120 Congress people wrote letters in support.
you're gonna have to educate me. Did all states that needed to ratify?
But there was a motion for some of those states that ratified decades ago to be wiped out because it was too long ago, which would not meet the threshold.
I think that's ridiculous. I mean, we've been working
Yeah.
on this for 101 years.
I
Come
didn't
on.
say I agreed.
They have some of the best technocrats, in my opinion, working in the Biden administration. It's very possible they do it, but
Any suggestion on how we can get the word so we can be pushing for that? I know our time is very crunchy
Yeah.
because I'm sure that.
You've got about 6 days to get it done.
Yeah, right.
No pressure, no pressure.
No pressure.
And before we approve 6A.
yeah.
Exactly. Okay, I saw it.
You could, you could make an appeal to the 2 US senators here to make it a priority that they ask the White House.
Okay.
I
'Cause
think
I've been
the
trying to
county
call the
may
White
be-
House, but you can't.
You could argue we're one of 102 in the state and we're one of thousands in the country. It might be hard to make a direct appeal that would be.
We'll do that.
And call Tammy Duckworth because she is on fire right now.
Yeah.
She's mad. She, just while we were in committee meetings, she, really ripped into Hegseth during question.
Oh, good.
Yeah, well, anyway, Member Honig.
Thank you, Chair Dessart. I'm Andrew Honig. I'm a new county board member. It's nice to meet you, Greg. Could you explain as a new member, and I'm, not totally up in the process of like what you do throughout the year and how you communicate the information as a lobbyist to us and how then we kind of go through that process over the year?
My direct report is to Jeremy Custer. And so I try to give him timely updates on what is happening in Congress and what we've been doing for the county. Those kind of recur, a schedule built around your legislative committee meetings. Throughout the year, it is a lot of interfacing directly with members of Congress from the delegation that represents DuPage, communicating the county's priorities. One of the busiest parts of the year will be when the appropriations process starts and we try to make, what's the word I'd be looking for? Topical and attractive requests of the members of Congress for congressionally directed spending. And so that's a big brunt of what we work on, is trying to secure federal funding for the county. I heard a comment once, it's about a lawyer, and it was saying, you're not paying me this rate for the time I'm spending now, you're paying it for the time I've invested building these relationships in advance of this. I'm paraphrasing here, but so a lot of what we do is helping maintain the relationships and making sure that when something that is happening in Washington that could impact the county, we are doing our best to communicate to the county that it's happening, but also communicating to Congress and others the preferences of the county board. So
Thank you.
I hope that kind of explains.
No, that's great. Thank
More
you.
of
Greg.
an art, less of a science.
Yeah, right.
And how do you
Thank
do that? Once you get our legislative agenda, do you just go start knocking on doors saying, hey, DuPage County wants X, Y, Z?
It's all, in some regards, yes. I mean, these are a lot of pre-existing relationships that we have with the staff and the members. I personally try to find things within your priorities that those members and their staff are more interested in and try to highlight them. Because you have a very robust legislative agenda and it is good. But they may say, yes, that's a lot of stuff. Of course, I support it all. Let's talk, Sean Caston, what does he care about? Science, environment, climate change. Try to curate things for them in that regard. And the appropriations process in particular, we spend a lot of time prepping with your staff and then spending a lot of time with the members' staff.
So we just approved our Springfield legislative agenda today. So are you saying that our federal legislative agenda is too robust? Should we shorten it?
No, it's good that it's robust. I mean,
Okay.
it's almost a smorgasbord for members to look at.
All right.
And frankly, if you think about the time you have as a board member and staff, what we try to do is when you have needs in particular, I always think as a former staffer for a member of Congress, I want someone to come in and make an ask of me and tell me exactly what they want me to do and say, oh, also I've already written for you.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So that's really something we try to work on. So you need something, we go in and say, I've had people come to me and say, can you help with this? I'm like, yeah, what do you want me to do? And they say, we don't know. So we try to make sure.
Well, something I learned from Sharon Marquet, Jeremy's predecessor, is that we don't want a shotgun effect because it's just too much. We want just specific things so that it can, so that we can actually accomplish things. You don't want too much. Okay. I saw you.
It's me,
I mean,
Lucy.
Hi,
I'm Lucy Evans. And my question is, I'm disappointed that, I guess a little worried about, any shift away from climate change. But I don't think we need to use that word to get, things accomplished. Like if we work on water quality, flood control and air quality and energy efficiency, it does the same thing. So I just hope we don't get too discouraged. And, but I think, we still need to do that legislatively, like try to find things that, maybe pass the, like the digestibility test, and we can still come at it though.
You just gave 4 great similes for,
Yeah, I mean, that's all it is. So if we just kind of get to the symptom, get to the causes, then we'll get to the symptom anyways.
Great.
Member Rutledge.
Thank you, Chair. Just curious, Greg, how many other counties do you lobby for? And you said ours is a pretty robust legislative agenda, so I'm curious about the comparisons, I guess.
Or 2 other counties, and your agendas are all comparable.
Thanks.
Other questions? Any other questions? Okay, I've got the biggest question, then a big question. And I don't mean to put you on the spot, but we're about to approve a bid for your
No
services.
pressure.
What did you do for DuPage County in 2024? And if you could specify specific dollar amounts that you brought in or contributed to bringing in, why should we retire you is my question.
There's 4 major things worth noting. When it comes to the appropriations process, we were successful at getting 3 projects for the county included in the fiscal year 25 appropriation bills in the House. They totaled up to $1.5 million. It was a stormwater project, road infrastructure project, and a flood reduction project. There's an asterisk on that though. Congress is currently operating under what's called a continuing resolution. A CR is where they just continue to spend money at the same levels as the existing or previous fiscal year. So we're currently operating under fiscal year 24 funding levels. When a CR is passed, none of your, I still call them earmarks. That's what they call them when I was working in Congress originally. And then they tried to rebrand them. So our earmarks are in limbo until fiscal year 25 is passed. The current CR funds the federal government through March 14th. So until then, we don't see that money. We don't realize it. But we've passed the first important hurdle, which is getting the members of Congress to pick those projects and for the Appropriations Committee to approve them. So it's going to be a lot of hurry up and wait on those. But I think those are meaningful, and having been on the outside and working with DuPage before, I think that's one of the bigger number of projects the county has been chosen for in the past few years. The other thing that is actually that did pass was there's a legislation called the Water Resources Development Act, and it gets reauthorized every couple of years, once every 2 years. And the Sarah Hunt, very impressed with her.
Oh, me too.
Worked with her, it's kind of right around the time of the signing of the contract with you guys. Members of Congress were accepting requests to include in this bill, its short nickname is WRDA, Water Resources Development Act. And bear with me here, this gets a little technical. The Army Corps of Engineers has this authority called Section 219. And Section 219 is an authorizing program that allows the Army Corps to work with local governments on certain infrastructure projects. We were able to work with Congressman Chuy Garcia to get DuPage County written into the bill as a pre-authorized entity under Section 219. Don't ask me to explain entirely how the Army Corps deals with projects after you're pre-authorized, but this is an important first step. There's $5 million pre-authorized And so as the county identifies projects and works with the core, it allows us, it's like we already have the foot in the door. That in another instance, we'd have to get members of Congress to specifically name the county in other ways and do this. Now we have a foot in the door for some of these flooding and infrastructure projects. So, and Sarah was really savvy, and when we were talking to figure out this is something we should pursue. So Congressman Garcia was great. The bill ended up passing in December. So that was I think, a big win for the county that will pay dividends long-term, because you will remain pre-authorized over section 219 unless you're named and removed in future bills. So I'd say those four things, those three earmarks, that are some of the biggest accomplishments that we can point to from last year.
Thank you. All right, last round of questions. Anyone? All right, thank you so much for coming in, Greg. It's always great to see you.
Likewise.
Will we see you on Friday?
Well, that's our state legislative breakfast, but you're more than welcome to come to Arrowhead with us if you like.
Oh, I thought it was just a legislative breakfast.
No, it's-
Okay, just state. Gotcha. Thank you again for coming in.
Thank you
All right.
for allowing me to present. It's great. I'll check in with, I don't know.
So I would like to make a motion to approve LEG-P-0001-25. It's the recommendation for the approval of a county contract to McGuire Woods Consulting LLC to provide consulting services as lobbyists representing DuPage County before the U.S. Congress and the federal executive branch for DuPage County's Division of Transportation, Public Works, Stormwater Management, and other county departments and agencies for the period of February 1st, 2025 to January 31st, 2026 for the county board for a contract total amount not to exceed $96,000. Got a motion and a second. Any comments, questions? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any noes? All right, unanimous. Yay. All right, any old business? Yes.
Jeremy, can you give us details about Friday morning? Where, what, when?
So 9 a.m. Arrowhead. There will be a short program from Deb at 9:30. We'll have seating charts. She'll be with each of your respective legislators that, have parts of your district. And Deb will be giving a speech focusing on our legislative agenda. And that's kind of the run of show. Heidi is actually much more in tune on the run of show than I would say even I am.
I think you hit it.
I think I hit it. Okay, cool. Like, we've been talking about it a lot, and we've gotten a pretty good response on RSVPs. The DuPage legislators that have not RSVP'd are the ones that just have like little slivers, and our majority in like the other collar counties, they just have very small, but our main delegations there. So.
So 9 a.m.
Yes.
Arrowhead.
Everyone kind of already knows this, but Freedom's bill passed, which is like a really big deal.
Yeah.
That was a very negotiated bill that got done in Springfield. We're going into the legislative session. Transit's gonna be a big deal. The other thing I'd be remiss if I didn't mention is the federal legislative agenda. Some of you have got me some things. The 20th is the last day to do that. And then we'll have that kind of worked out, have something for you to look at, share and start, and we can get that approved at the next legislative meeting and send it to the county board. But with that, like you said, with the CR going until the 14th and everything that's happening, like, we have time to establish this, because I think the other thing too, in the coming weeks, we're gonna get a fuller picture of what the next 4 years will look like, good, bad, and the ugly. So, so we just gotta make sure we're advocating for ourselves.
So I know some of you, Member Childress, Member Deacon Garcia, you've come to me, some others have come to me with federal agenda items. Now's the time to get them to
Yes.
Jeremy, and then we'll discuss later. All right.
Yeah.
Any other old business? New business. Okay, I do have a piece of new business, and that is, what do you think about this? Member Yu is now the chair of economic development, and she's had meetings with other entities like Beth Marquetti from the CVB. And Beth called me yesterday and asked me if we would be willing, to have them kind of piggyback legislative, ideas off of our lobbyists, because they don't have the money, the finances to have their own lobbyists. And other CVBs around the state do have their own lobbyists, but they don't have the money to spend. And I thought that would be great to add. Are we allowed to add the CVB to?
So
Oh,
I would say, and that's why I'm having my attorney sit down next to
Oh.
me.
Remember how I said I'd yell at you? if,
yes. Is
Dawn.
she yelling at me?
I'm willing to
Dawn.
give my interpretation of something like that.
Have you
and
guys
I'm
heard this
like-
idea before
Well,
from Beth?
not from Beth, but
Oh.
we've had other tertiary agents or other tertiary groups that work with the county have asked for us to utilize our lobbyists to do lobbying that would benefit the county,
Right.
although you cannot lobby on behalf of someone that you do not have a contract with.
Gotcha.
So the issue is that, we cannot ask our lobbyists to do something on behalf of another entity that would have to register as a lobbyist. That would be a violation of the Lobbying Ethics Act.
Other than people going to jail, there's
I
some
would rather
logistical
not.
things. Yeah, it's not a generally.
Although I may be safer in jail.
No, your point's well taken on the ethics side. There's a lot of logistical hurdles there. This might be something, and more importantly, then it becomes, once you do it for one person, everybody's gonna want to do it. And then your lobbyist is gonna get pretty crazy.
That's a value-based thing.
Come on up.
My only concern is that if there are issues where there are synergies, we need to see those but I would say to formally be lobbying or saying that we're lobbying for another organization is a slippery slope. Obviously, there's things we lobby for, like the motor fuel tax and and LGDF that other entities are lobbying for and have a tertiary benefit from us lobbying for that. I think that we look at those issues as they come up and those bills are filed, and then we can make decisions based off of those bills as they are filed. I think some of the stuff that DCVB works with would fold into some of our legislative agenda. So if there was something that came up specifically, we could have a legislative meeting as these happened. And I will say too, just from a process end, one of the things we will be doing as bills come up that our lobbyists identify that are important to the county, we will be producing one-pagers on them and giving them to the chair and the committee so that you guys can review them on a case-by-case basis. If you hear of a bill that you would like analysis on, give it to us. We will give you a bill analysis as it relates to the county. If there's bill analysis that I can give you from the state, but as it relates to the county, I will, or their lobbyist counter, we can give you a clear, this is the impact to us. So we will be watching for those bills on a proactive basis that are tied to the legislative agenda, but if there is something specifically you as a member are concerned about, bring it to us and we'd be more than happy to analyze those.
Thank you, and I'm glad I brought it up, because
Yes.
now when I say no, it's gonna have some Jeremy weight behind it.
Well, and I wouldn't say and again, we cannot have again, tell me if I'm speaking out of turn. We cannot have people, we cannot lobby on behalf of people or of organizations that would have to employ their own lobbyists to engage in this behavior.
And I understand, it's not
That's
like I'm
the-
saying, come on,
yeah.
everybody join on,
Uh,
but as you mentioned earlier, the CVB has specific benefits to DuPage County as well, so.
And there's certainly nothing that says if this DCVB were to come in here and say, members of the legislative committee, this is a really good bill. It's going to bring the International Bowling Federation to Illinois. We're the only bowling alley area that can host it. It's going to put 280 heads in beds every day for the month of March. You should lobby in favor of this. That's not to say there's not a completely very good reason for the county to lobby in favor of it. The concern, of course, is
we cannot direct our lobbyists to act on it. act as an agent for another agency or for another entity.
Where that entity would be required to have where they would either be required to register or it would otherwise circumvent the nature and the purpose of the lobbyist registration and the Lobbying Ethics Act.
Okay. Member you.
Thank you, Chair. I didn't anticipate that, that would be, an affirmative answer that DCBB would be allowed to use their county lobbyists, but as you said, Jeremy,
Yeah,
it's really more about, the priorities that we put into our state legislative
Yeah.
agenda. And that you and I had talked about, would it be possible potentially to amend the state legislative agenda to include in the economic development section to talk about tourism potentially, or, something that would bring in economic impact,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. So, yes, certain policies that we could potentially move forward or advocate for, not necessarily DCBB, but something that they really care about, right? That we also care about. There would be a nexus there. So anyway.
synergies, I think we can work together but I just want to be clear on the language.
No, I'm
of-
glad I didn't know that.
That's just because this isn't the first time this comes up often. There's a lot of different groups that work with us that are like, hey, like, we can't afford a lobbyist. Can you tell them to do that? It's like, no, we cannot. Like, we just can't do that, but we can like advocate for issues that would be helpful.
Beneficial to us.
Yes, I mean, there's a lot of groups, like, Seiko's probably a good example. They advocate for county issues that help us, that like, our lobbyists care about those issues, but it's better coming from different organizations, so. IML is another good example, like, you have umbrella organizations, and those are but like, but those are dues paying, we could go into,
Probably best not to
yeah.
go down the abyss on that.
Yeah.
All right. Any other new business? All right, without objection, we're adjourned.